researcher. You know, I do. I just went with the argument.
You've been sold out on there?
I mean,
Somebody
I'm part of that team. I'm not an individual. It's a team.
Geneva, you have a copy of the agenda?
Oh, wait, that's on the solar. Okay.
Is that an accurate depiction of the facility?
I'd like to call November 15th, special call budget meeting to order. So this time we'll be reviewing and discussion of the 2016-2017 budget. Sphere?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to review the budget in an effort to recognize that our digest came in higher than we anticipated. And as customary, something that this board has been commended for, to review the budget more than one time a year. And so this is the time frame that we elect to look at the budget to determine whether or not we can make any adjustments given the revenue and the finality of the closing of the books of the last fiscal year. And so, as customary, we turn the floor over to our Executive Financial Officer, Ms. Erica Robinson, to walk us through the presentation, which you have a copy of in your folder. Would like to point out, however, that our board has made a commitment many years ago when the recession took place, that as they had to reduce employees and benefits and salaries became stationary, that the board made a commitment to restore benefits and salaries and programming as funding became available. And the board has been true to their word. If you'll take a look at the budgetary adjustments and add-backs document that I handed to each board member, you will see that since fiscal year 14, you have added back to our employees just under $15 million in benefits, whether it was permanent salary increases and or adding to the 403B. In addition to that, the board commissioned a salary study, and in that salary study, we made the agreement that we would try to restore our employees back to where they would have been had there not been a recession in 2009. And so we are actually close to reaching that goal, and will likely do so in the coming fiscal year, fiscal year 18. And so in addition to the permanent adjustments that you made, you've also added back to programming for students, and in doing so, made one-time adjustments that impacted salaries for our employees, but also programming, totaling out to about $4.5 million. And so in total, since fiscal year 14, you have added back to the budget roughly $19.3 million in adjustments, the lion's share of which went to students and employees. So as I have traveled around the state and had opportunities to talk to other superintendents and other board members, they're very much impressed that you guys actually have a board meeting that focuses on reviewing the budget in this time of the year. We're probably one of the only in the entire state that does that. And if I would think if they were here, they would commend you publicly, because this, you have been true to your word as a board to focus on our students and our employees. So on behalf of all of your employees, I appreciate you and thank you. And on behalf of our students, I do as well. So now I'll turn it over to Erica, unless you have any questions of me before we jump right on in.
Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and go through the presentation here. It's very short. On the first slide here, we have our state revenue, and we have our actual numbers from 2015 and 2016, and we have our budgeted state revenue for 2017. And this is just to show a trend of how our state revenue has been going for the past few years. From 16 to 17, we did have an increase of about $3.4 million. And from 15 to 16 was a little bit higher increase, about $8.7 million. Most of the increase from 2016 to 2017 can be attributed to the austerity, the cuts in the austerity reduction. On the next slide, we have our history of our M&O tax digest, and this is the 9-year history. So starting with fiscal year 2009, when we were bringing in almost $54 million at a millage rate of 18.21. We are not quite back to that point yet, but we are headed in the right direction. Right now, we are about $10.5 million below where we were in 2009. But as you can see, from about 2015, we have been slowly increasing in our tax digest. The next slide is what Ms. Fury just went over, the budgetary add-backs by fiscal year, and I think she did a very good job of explaining that. So, if there are not any questions, we can move on to the chart options that we have. So on chart A, this chart is a projection of where we could potentially be by the end of fiscal year 2020. This chart assumes no revenue increases, and it assumes no budget amendments in fiscal year 17. In all of the charts, we have considered the increase in non-certified health insurance, so that has been calculated into these charts, as well as an increase in textbook cost. So chart A, again, is no budget adjustments. On chart B, this chart includes a 1% one-time pay adjustment in FY17, as well as an increase in our 403B contribution of 0.5% for our TRS employees. And this will begin in FY17. And at the end of 2020, with no revenue increases, we're projected to have a fund balance of about $7.9 million. On chart C, this chart includes a one-time 1% pay adjustment, as well as the 0.5% increase in the 403B contribution for TRS employees. It also includes a cost for an RTI/gifted coordinator, a lead mechanic, and a bus inspection contract. Those totaled together is approximately $230,000. And our last chart is chart D. In this chart, it combines charts B and C, and it also includes $300,000, a one-time cost for summer programming, a one-time cost of $100,000 for STEM programming, a one-time cost of $100,000 for literacy and math programming, and it also includes a one-time cost of $350,000 for renovations to the Alcovey High School outdoor facilities. And with no revenue increases at the end of 2020, we're projected to be at just over $6 million in the fund balance. So those are the chart options that we have. If there are any questions, we can take them now.
Oh, sorry. Before you do, it might be a good idea for Tom, Mr. Garrett, to walk us through a PowerPoint about the Alcovey High School facilities. But if you need to ask your question, I don't want to interfere with that. So jump right in. I just didn't want to forget to turn the mic over to Tom. So
I know you stated there's no increase in revenue. You didn't even include any increase in digest over the 3 years at all?
The 3 years going forward, it does not include any increases. That's our conservative approach to budgeting our revenues because we don't know what the tax digest will do, so we don't assume any increases.
the other outlier to the whole budgeting process is what you know as the Governor's Education Reform Commission and the recommendations that have been made via the Reform Commission. And that work was tabled last year. And part of that work involves redoing the formula on how our schools are funded, which was a concern that I had last year. And when they tabled it, it sort of opened the door up for us to do some different things because we could pretty much figure how much money we would receive from the state. Now that piece is back on the table again, and you've got a governor who is really interested in trying to make that move forward. And so what we traditionally know in terms of funding schools, I wonder how that will take place. I've read the literature and I've read the summaries, and there are things that I have great concern about, and I hope that we'll find out more about it. So at this time of the year, when we amend the budget, we try to be as to do the right things, but be conservative at the same time, because we really don't know what's going to happen in the spring. So you try to adhere to the board's wish of restoring salaries, benefits, and programming, but at the same time knowing that there's this big outlier there in terms of school funding and salaries and benefits for personnel and our teachers and how that's all going to be done, and this requirement that the potential for us to have to change from a state salary schedule to a choice of several that includes merit pay and just a host of different issues that are very, very gray right now. And so as we think towards the future, I think we're in a good position right now to do things that are one-time things that we know that we can do, that we don't have to try to sustain in a budget time when we're uncertain of how we'll be funded. So that's just something that is out there that we need to keep in mind as we push forward with our budgeting process.
I agree with the conservative approach,
Yeah.
no question about it. But when I look in front of me and I see a assistant state, that tells me that
It's getting better.
It's getting better. And they're talking almost $10 million. So that's a consistency. I think that's a little above being conservative. That's, and I think we ought to project our revenues out that would reflect some increase in the digest, so it'll give us a better picture. We don't want to fool ourselves. Let's say we know we got a stream of revenue,
Right.
and not recognize it. I think that's just as bad as being overzealous.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Mr. Garrett, you want to walk us through the Alcovy piece?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Fury. Good evening, members of the board. Really, it's a pretty simple handout here. Some photographs of the existing buildings that serve as the restroom and concession stand facilities for Alcovy's outdoor athletic facilities. It's near the baseball and softball field, if you're familiar with the area, which I'm sure most of you are. The first couple of pictures, this large modular building is the restroom building. These are the pictures of the exterior. The interior, you can see it's in pretty poor shape, really. This one picture, it may not look like much. It's on a single picture on the page there. I have to kind of step around that one. I'm kind of a big guy, and the floor flexes real bad when I step on it. The entire floor there is really getting in pretty bad shape. We've already done some work on it in other places. The second building is the concession stand. It's also a little modular building. And the last picture there of the building is showing where it's been broken into multiple times, and we've tried to secure it with a external hasp there with a padlock. And then the last building is an aerial view of where a proposed building, excuse me, to replace the restroom and existing restroom and concession stand would go. And it would be a single building that's combined with concession and restroom facilities. I've been here about a little less than a year, and it's been a concern since I've been here for sure. I did print out a list of the work orders that have been received in the past 36 months, and it's over 30 work orders on just these two buildings. I use that term loosely, but we've had some pretty significant issues with the plumbing, with securing the buildings. There's the locks are constantly being broken. There's the rotting floor in the large building, and then just general other issues with paint. The roof has been leaking multiple times. We've just tried to patch it and coat it with a sealant to keep the building at least dry as best we can. So those are the primary concerns with the facility. The budget's $350,000 for that building and associated upgrades to serve that building.
Would it be replacing that building? Like these buildings, it would be a brand new facility? Right?
That's correct. Those buildings would be removed.
Bricks and mortar?
That's correct, sir. Permanent. Not non-modular.
I will say that these pictures, because I went out there last year after parents brought this concern to me, I'm quite pleased to see this finally on here, so I'm very pleased with that. But I will say that the pictures, for those who have not visited, because I had no idea what I was walking into, and I think all of us, when I sent y'all the pictures, did not know what we were walking into as well, because I was quite shocked that nobody else had said anything. But the pictures do not do any justice to the smell. The smell is absolutely ridiculous, and you can smell it quite a few yards before you actually get to the building.
I would like to add that it is a safety concern. It's not a good reflection of our facilities here in Newton County, and there is a concern that's not comparable to facilities at our neighboring high schools.
I must say as well that these facilities does not depict the type of system that we
No.
represent. And I think we should do something very bad.
But let me also say this, and I know parents aren't in here, but in case it's recorded and somebody see it, it goes to show too, when parents follow protocol and they do the right things and bring things to our attention, then we do take a look at it and push it into priority. So I do want to say that. So kudos to those parents.
Yeah.
Do we have a drawing of the potential building?
Not at this time, sir.
How do we develop a cost without a conceptual drawing? So,
we asked our architect to look at similar facilities that they have built over the years. And they took that and sent it to some contractors to get current pricing on a similar facility to what's proposed.
Is it per
It'll
square
come
foot
back.
fee, or, I mean, so you gotta have some measurement, right? I mean, we're not grabbing 350 out of the air. There's
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Is it one building? Is it gonna be a restrooms with a concession stand alternate?
a single building, yes, sir. That's the plan. And of course, that would be brought back to the board for approval
Yeah.
before any kind of construction was undertaken. I mean, that large of an expenditure.
Yeah. So you'll see the plans before we touch anything. So that if you have questions or concerns, or if you need a door to be over here instead of over here, we can have those kinds of conversations. But what we're requesting is that this dollar figure was not in any budget. It's not in our capital projects budget, because if you'll recall, your SPOS dollars are taken up with debt. We pay our bonds using SPOS dollars. So the few dollars that remain in your SPOS budget are going to pay for other projects. So this project, while a priority, wasn't included in the budget, but since our dollars are different than what we anticipated, it is now a doable project outside of the capital SPOS dollars that we've set aside. And so what we're requesting is that we set aside the $350,000 for this project, and that over the next budget board meetings, we will bring back architectural drawings and all of the pieces that you'll need to make an informed decision on how that $350,000 will be spent. We just know that that's that's the budget, period. That's what we want to spend.
Will we get a snapshot at the SPOS budget and what's been spent as well?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. If you'll recall, in our last budget meeting in the spring, one of the tabs in your notebook is the capital projects budget, and it pretty clearly delineates what things we're working on with the dollars available there. But remember what we did, and I'm just saying this for the benefit of people who might be viewing this later on. When we asked for the SPOS, we said that we would reduce our debt service millage rate to 0, and we did. And in doing that, the debt payments now were transferred to the SPOS dollars. So what we once had was a SPOS dollar that would go further than it does right now. And so you, as a board, reduced the taxes on our tax-paying citizens by 1.9 mils over the last year and a half, or 2 years now. So we will definitely give you an accounting of the projects again, so we'll get it out to you. Any other questions for the team?
Okay, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Baker, and a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Martin, all in favor, aye. All in favor, stand up.
Board members, Mr. Fayol is meeting with you over to the left of the table. We want to take your picture with the book. If you don't have a book, we'll put one in your hand.
Oh, yeah, the smell is worse. Not to mention, like, you don't even have pictures of the inside concession and how the floors are all over each other and crossing. And then the fact that when they're doing the food, how dirt, like, I've actually been standing in there. These parents called and told me to come out there, so I went out there and I didn't knew. And neither they had no idea. If you don't say anything, we don't know, and that's what I explained to them. But I said, this is what you need to do. And they did. So, So I'm standing in there in dirt, lining the doctor's doors, and, cause it's no floor, it's just a storage thing. So, and cords are tangled up. I was like, oh my God.
And what